Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Very good evening to all of you.
Good
Let's
evening,
wait
ma'am.
for 2-3 minutes and let people join in. Then we'll start. Done case study?
Yes, ma'am.
Group, individual?
Ma'am, me and
DE&I.
Sorry, you and Anamika. Okay.
Have together, and I guess others have done it individual.
All right.
ये लाइट ऑफ है पता नहीं बहुत कंफर्टेबल
So who all are joining more? Okay, so 5 people have joined. Good. So shall we begin? Prachi, Vishakha, Ruchi, done with your
Yes, ma'am.
case study? Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So today let's start with Vishakha. Let's go back from alphabetical. Yeah? People we should not feel कि हमारा last में number आता है ना. Let's them give them.
मिलेगा ना मुझे
ma'am, just give me a few minutes because my network is very disturbed today.
Okay. So let us know whenever you're ready. Shall we move on to the next Prachi? Ruchi? Yeah. Prachi, would you like to start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am. So, what should I supposed to do? I mean, answering all those questions or
Yes,
something?
that's how we do the case study, na? How do we do case study?
I don't know. Okay, ma'am. So,
Let me
ma'am, the
open
first
it for
question.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
ये मेरा नाम ले बताना
Yeah. So this is your case study.
Yes, ma'am.
So how we solve case study? Just to give another review on that. First, we talk about the case. We give a summary, what you have understood, and then the discussions on question answers.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, the topic of the case study was transitioning on campus. So, in the case study, there was a girl named Kiara, I guess. Yeah. So, Kiara, that girl was a trans woman, and she was on the way of transitioning herself. And initially, all of her friends were good, and she just accepted the fact that she is a trans woman. But later on, she started facing some problems with the people around her. In a group project, some people start fighting with each other on the topic that whether Kiara is a girl or a boy. So there were some things like that which created problem for Kiara. Then there is a LGBTQ alliance thing uh, in the case study where Kiara was feeling comfortable in that environment. But there was one thing that people were mainly focused on sexual identity rather than gender identity. So this was the main summary of the case study, according to me. And there were some questions about discussion. And the first question was, what would you do if Kiara came to you for help? So, and what I answered about it is that being accepting and understanding, supportive would be the first thing I would prefer in order to help her. I would try to make her feel comfortable in sharing her thoughts with me and support her to raise her voice if she's feeling discriminated.
Okay.
And the second question was, trans student at the start of their transitions might be particularly vulnerable to personal attacks. How can we help students during this challenging period? So what I wrote was that this can be solved by creating awareness about LGBTQ community, the challenges they actually face by making committees, organizing more and more workshops, etc. It should be a part of school education as well.
All right. Good.
Then the third question was, what do you think it is more difficult for some people to be accepting of different gender identities than sexual identities? So the third answer was, I guess because it is something quite visible in one's personality, dressing behavior, etc. And moreover, sometimes people are willing to go, and which is itself difficult and challenging for the society to accept, as people think that whatever is given to you by God grace, accept it. What are some steps that campus could take to create awareness and acceptance of differing gender identities on campus? And the fourth answer is, these are some biases inbuilt in us as a part of the society since childhood. There should be proper setup of committees, workshops, campaigns in the campus. Moreover, it would be better if these things becomes a part of school education where teachers don't skip such important topics from the syllabus. In fact, it should be a matter of discussion positively in societal committees as well. That's it.
Okay, good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, very nice. Good, Prachi. Good start.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so who wants to go next?
Ma'am?
Yes. Yes, please tell me. There is no initiative only. Nobody wants to go on their own.
Ma'am, can I go?
Yeah, both of you can start. Namika, Srishti.
Anamika, if you want to, then.
No, it's okay. You can start, Bushra.
Okay, thank you. So, ma'am, do I have to read the whole comprehension?
No. You just have to give a summary, what you understood from the case.
Okay, ma'am. So I understood from this that there was a girl named Kiara. She was a transgender. Sorry, she was a transgender. She was not a girl. So she went to her school. She went to her school, and when the students' peer groups got to know about her sexual identity, they started discriminating her from from project works and all of that. They were not very kind towards her, and they were teasing her and all that. So and also she was not feeling very invited in every of the projects and all. So there was a line in this comprehension that the two boys started fighting that whether Kiara should be a part of uh, their project work or not. So according to this line itself summarize about how we see transgender or lesbians or gender gender excluding girls and boys, we are not that welcoming to those genders, which is creating a big problem nowadays, because as time is changing, western countries are becoming more and more welcoming towards them, and that's why I guess they are more developed to us. They are more open minded, and we should also be very much welcoming and be very much accepted towards it, because it's a fact. They have been made by the god, and we should be just accepting the fact that there are genders excluding men and boys, men and girls, and they should be given equal opportunities as girls and as boys.
Very good. Yeah. All right. So let's begin with question answers.
Okay. So ma'am, the first question was, what would you do if Kiara came to you for help? So ma'am, um, I think there's nothing wrong with Kiara, and hence I would not help her, but my classmates, to make them understand that as it is her gender is as normal as being a boy or being a girl. I would make you know an informal meeting with all of my classmates and make them understand that it's quite normal, and it's not in her hand to be a transgender or to be a lesbian or to be a girl. So we should not judge anyone. We should not judge anyone on the basis of what's not in their hand. We should judge on their skills, we should judge on their education and everything, but not anything which is not in the hands of ourselves. It's completely normal and we should accept it. And second question was, trans student at the start of their transition might be particularly vulnerable to personal attacks. How can we help students during this challenges period? Ma'am, we can try create a little more fresh environment for those people. We should create workshops, and we should present their problems in front of everyone through presentations or through seminars, that what problems they go through, and how can we tackle it on daily basis, or and the most the place which can bring the most changes, I think education institution, because that's the place where children are being shaped. The mind is being shaped in educational institution. So I think the change can be brought out by educational institution, and that will bring a most biggest change. The third question is, why do you think it is more difficult for some people to be accepting different genders than sexual identities? I guess the society which we have created since, I don't know, 100 years, thousand of years. So the society which we have created, we are not really accepting the changes which are being brought up in present days. We are thinking कि नहीं, gender तो दो ही होते हैं ये वो. And then also our tradition, we can talk about Indian tradition. We generally don't talk frankly with parents ki acha, if someone is a transgender, he would not probably tell her or his or her parents about it, because of the traditions. Their parents would not understand because of the generation gap, or some whatever we want to call it. So I think this is a problem, and stereotype is the biggest problem which we have created amongst ourselves. Stereotype that transgenders are not good. There's a stereotype that transgenders do magics and all. I don't know how many people would agree with me, मगर in my society it is like transgender से बात नहीं करना, वो लोग जादू करते हैं. So they will also change you into a transgender. I mean, it is a biological phenomenon. No one can change you into a boy, into a girl, or into a transgender. So this is the tradition which is going on and it is not changing. And I think education system is the biggest, in our education system, I remember in my school, my biology teacher used to skip those chapters only, those chapters which were reproduction, talking about reproduction ki, okay, we don't have to study this and give it. So just imagine, just wonder how transgender और these topic तो कैसे बात होगी जब हम लोग reproduction के ही बारे में बात नहीं कर सकते हैं. So that's the main reason I think. That question 4 is, what are some steps that campus could take to create awareness to acceptance different gender? Ma'am, we should try to educate children from the infant stage, from I think from LKG, UKG, first, second, that the genders are not only boys and girls but also but also others. In this way, the kids will be more accepting towards all the genders. I would like to give an example. So I am in an all girls school, Vasanta College. So I have been studied in a convent school, Kuwait. Okay, so when I went to an all girls school, so it was like very very problematic for me because I was not able to adjust there. Not because I love being with boys, but because I was not able to accept that boys were not there, and I can't be friends with boys and all that. But on the other hand, there were girls which were from all girls school. So they were like, there was one bhaiya in our college, library mein wo rehte the, and the girls would go crazy about that bhaiya ki acha library ja rahe hain, उनको देखेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. So I used to think that what is that thing which is making me different from those girls, because I was not finding anything attractive or anything different to him. So when I read this comprehension, I thought that how could we when जब लड़का लड़की में इतनी ज्यादा difference है, when girls are being so much लड़का है तो क्या मिल गया. They were so Vishakha would be knowing that poem, stationary boy. है ना पाठी?
Yes,
So,
sure.
So ma'am, girls would be like crazy कि पेन नहीं भी खरीदना है तो स्टेशनरी भैया के पास जाना है पेन खरीदने के लिए, because I used to girls
Can I share a situation on this? मतलब कि हम लोग गर्ल्स कॉलेज में पढ़े थे, सनबीम में. So there is a only teacher, male teacher, which teach our मतलब account related subject. तो वो सर थोड़े यंग थे, मतलब उतने अच्छे नहीं थे दिखने में. इवन दो लड़कियां जब वो क्लास में आते थे हम लोग को पढ़ाने के लिए, वो टीचर है, उनको हम टीचर के तरीके से देखना चाहिए, वो पढ़ाने के लिए आते थे, लोग पागल हो जाते थे, ओ सर आ गए, सर आ गए. ओ माय गॉड, मतलब इतना अजीब ऑड लगता था कि जो लगता है कि आप मतलब आदमी नहीं देखे हो, घर में आपके भाई और पिता नहीं होंगे क्या कि मतलब पहली बार लड़का देख रहे हैं. एंड अजीब सा मैम.
So that's attraction, that is very natural, and it is not just with you. I had studied in girls' college, graduation. I know this feeling. We had 3 male faculty members, and we used to go crazy like that only. So it's a very normal feeling. That's how we are attracted to the other gender.
So with this case, I want to explain कि अगर girls और boys में which is like more than normal, अगर इतना ज़्यादा difference है तो how can anyone be so accepting towards transgender जिनसे हमने कभी interact ही नहीं किया होगा. There would be hardly anyone जिसने कभी transgender से interact किया हो उनकी problem को. So the problem is not in us but within our social system, I guess. अगर वो ठीक हो जाएगा then people will be accepting them.
Correct.
And this could be only change could be only brought up by education institution, because there only we can shape those minds.
Absolutely. Yes, very
okay,
true.
Ma'am. This much. Thank you, ma'am.
Good, Bushra. Good for bringing in different kind of
thank you, ma'am.
Discussion. Yeah, that's nice. All right, Vishakha, now ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, go ahead next.
Ma'am, the case study tells all about the transgender, which is Kiara. वो जैसे first year school में मतलब उसका admission होता है, and just because he or she is a transgender, तो मत उसको ढेर सारे कमेंट्स और प्रॉब्लम फेसेस करने पड़ते हैं और जिसकी वजह से वो अपने आप को उस सोसाइटी में या उस एनवायरनमेंट में एडजस्ट नहीं कर पाती है। And the first question, ma'am, what would you do if Kiara came to you for a help? Ma'am, I surely help by जैसे कि अवेयरनेस हम अवेयर कर सकते थे अपने जो हम जिस कैंपस में पढ़ते हैं या हम जिस स्टूडेंट्स के साथ पढ़ते हैं, हमारे जो क्लासमेट्स होते हैं उनको अवेयर करके उन्हें मोटिवेट करके कि ही मतलब कि हमें वो ये नहीं सोचना है कि वो ट्रांसजेंडर है, वो हम में से कोई एक ही है, जैसे हम हैं, बाकी अदर बॉयज एंड गर्ल्स हैं, वो भी एक इंसान है और वी शुड नॉट मेक देम फील ऑकवर्ड और मतलब नेग्लेक्ट फ्रॉम आवर सोसाइटी।
Correct. Good.
Second है trans student at the start of their transition might be particularly vulnerable to personal attack. How would you help students during this challenging period? Ma'am, I would help the students by spreading awareness or not thinking that I am a transgender so that I cannot do मतलब कि हम इस सोसाइटी में एडजस्ट नहीं कर सकते, हम उनको अवेयर कर सकते हैं, उन्हें मोटिवेट कर सकते हैं। Third question, why would you think that it is more difficult for some people to be accepting of different gender identity than a sexual identity? Ma'am, ये लोगों की thinking हो चुकी है from our tradition or in our society कि this मतलब transgender is not a part of our society, only boys, men and this girl women are the society or the member of our society. ऐसा मतलब नहीं करना चाहिए और मतलब कि हमें उनको ये बोलना चाहिए कि नहीं वो हमारी तरह हैं और हमें उन्हें अपने सोसाइटी का पार्ट बनाना चाहिए। What are the some steps that would campus take to create awareness and accept of the different gender? मैम we should मतलब कि बचपन से ही by the स्टार्टिंग पीरियड ऑफ द स्कूलिंग हमें बच्चों को अवेयर करना चाहिए बाय मेकिंग देम कि देयर इज नॉट ओनली टू जेंडर्स बट देयर आर मोर जेंडर्स व्हिच कैन आल्सो द पार्ट ऑफ आवर सोसाइटी।
Yeah. Good. So, Vishaka, try and speak in English. It's no problem that we understand that your English is not very comfortable. You are more comfortable talking in Hindi, but unless and until you won't try it, you won't be able to speak fluently, right?
Yes, ma'am, sure. But
So
वो
try.
words नहीं
It's
ले पा रहे
okay.
थे, so that's
That's
why I've
okay.
done.
That's okay. I understand that the words will not come in the first time, but second time try and research. Third time try and write it down. So the more you will be able to write down your answers on piece of paper, you will be able to speak out. Yeah, go ahead. All done? The fourth one is also done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good. All right. So who's going next? Srishti and Amika? Go ahead.
Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Second. Srishti, you want to start or shall I start?
You start, Anamika.
Okay, so in today's presentation, we have been given a very, kind of very heated topic to discuss upon. So we'll be discussing on a case study on LGBTQ. So giving a brief about what this whole case study was. So there was this girl called Kiara in the first year of her college. So initially everything was going very well with her. She was very like every student mixed up with her very in a very polite manner. They like contact. I mean, they discussed with her. They participated with her. They considered her to be a part of themselves itself. But one day, then she told one of her close friends that she was not. I mean, she was a trans woman. And after that, problems began in her life. Now people, they started to, looking her down or pulling her leg, calling her names. They started excluding her from their group. In this paragraph, there is this incident which is being narrated over here, that they were given a kind of a group project where the other people were one girl and a boy. They started having a debate upon whether she's a girl or a boy, like whether Kiara is a girl or a boy. This really, like Kiara felt very bad on seeing this, because initially everything was well, but then suddenly when she, spoke about that she's not, she's a trans woman, after then problem started. She started to think, what is the problem with it? Even if I am a trans woman, I'm not like a normal girl or a normal boy. What is the issue? Obviously she was not very comfortable after that incident. She started to even herself started to expend herself or exclude herself from the group discussions and all, and stay away. Then she got to meet with one of the LGBTQ alliances. She kind of felt related and felt very felt a bit comfortable while contacting with the people in that alliance. Although she was still not very satisfied with whatever was being done, she had a question as to why people make gender identities like such a big problem. So this was the overall summary of the case, and now I'll be moving on to the first question. So the flow will go like, first question I'll be answering, second it would be Srishti, then third me, and then again Srishti.
Okay.
So the first question is, what would I do if Kiara came to help for me? So had Kiara come to me for help, I would never have asked her to adjust in this situation, because if there is a mentality, if one person adjusts, then it's like lifelong that same person has to adjust, because then people become very used to, okay, the other person will adjust, why should we take up the pain? So I would never ask her to adjust. I would rather take initiative along with a group of few more people to educate the other people by the means of either explaining them that whatever Kiara is, she's all by the gods, she's all God's creation, and would make them aware about the rights of rights that transgenders have. Also, there is one other way we can just try to engage the other people in something like movies or all, like yesterday ma'am was also discussing, so that there is kind of an awareness created ki everyone, be it male, female, or any other category, they are all the same, and we are all a part of the society. No one should feel that they are excluded from certain rights or like certain benefits which the others are getting. Another thing which I feel I could have helped her in that way, but I did not add over here, is that by the means of just a game, like we can all the students can sit together and play a truth and dare game. So if anyone, any other person chose dare, we could have given her to switch the personalities. How would you feel if you were a transgender for one single day? So in this way, the other person can also understand, okay, so these are the problems which a transgender actually faces. So these are the few steps which I think I could have indulged into if she came to me for the help. Over to you, Srishti.
Thank you, Anamika. So the second question was, trans student at the start of their transition might be particularly vulnerable to personal attacks. How can we help students during this challenging period? So I thought this question needs some social aspect. So from that aspect, I wrote the answers, letting them know it's normal to be what they are. Normally or usually we say like lesbians or transgenders are kind of a default. They are not the right person, or they just become what they are by mistake. So it's not right. Firstly, we should let them feel like it's okay to be what they are. It's normal what or who they are. Second thing I will do, by making them comfortable. The same thing is by making them comfortable with me or their surrounding people or with the society, and just making all the other society members knowing that they are a very normal person. You can be comfortable with them, and letting that person know that the transgender or lesbian, you are also welcome in the society. You can be comfortable in it. Third one is respecting and treating them like others. yes, I will surely respect them as who they are, and I will also aware all other persons to respect and treat them like others person they treat. The fourth one is by knowing their thought, like they like to share. Mostly it happens in these cases, like in transition period, they need someone to just talk or let their frustration go out. So there should be some person, like some kind of counseling or some kind of a person. It's not just counseling. Sometimes people take counseling in a negative way, like that person must be crazy or mad, that is why that person need counseling. Counseling is not a negative thing, it's very positive thing. I take counseling as a person who is there for to just listen to me, like there's a person who can just listen to my thoughts and I'm free to speak. So I think that will be a best part, to give them a kind of base or place where they can share their thoughts, their crazy thoughts, or their just negative thoughts came into their mind by the society, by the force of society. The fifth one is by letting them feel safe and they can be understood by others. Yes, by letting them know that we or all the other people can understand them. They are not something um, different than society. They are understandable in the society. And I want to add one more thing. People usually go like make joke about it to what pronoun we should use for them, like he or she. So these things make them very disappointing, like why people are using these things for us. And the sexual orientation, people usually do that, like what is the orientation of them, for which sexual orientation they have. So these things make them unstable, and we should take care of these things. Over to you, Namka.
Now, so the third question is, what do you think it is more difficult for? Why do you think it is more difficult for some people to be accepting of different gender identities than sexual identities? Before coming to why it is difficult to accept, I think we should be a bit clear about what these gender identities and the sexual identity is all about. So gender identity is technically what or who we are actually, like God gifted. It can be male, female, trans, or any other like gender as well. Sexual identity is to whom we are attracted. We live in such a society where it is always considered like it's like a by default thing. If I'm a woman, I'll be attracted towards a male person. Or if there's a male person, he would be attracted to a female person. But that is not always the case. At least nowadays, these things have come up and they have become very like open to all of us, that it is not necessary that if a female person is there, she will be attracted to a male person. The female can be attracted to a male person, a female person, and a male can be attracted to a male person as well. So this is sexual and gender identities. Coming back to why do some people think? I think what others have answered is different from what the question is asking. Both of us, Rishi and I, considered it to be a bit more bit confusing as to why exactly would some people say or give more importance or be biased upon gender and sexual identities. So we have for the time being left this question like that. We'll ask. We actually wanted to ask you about this thing. So I'll be moving on to Srishti for the next question.
Okay, Akanksha. Okay, Namka. So fourth and the last question is, what are some steps that the campus should take to create awareness and acceptance of different gender identities on campus? Firstly, in previous class, ma'am, you told us that leadership should be the first step anywhere if we want to make awareness or acceptance of these identities in the any group or in society. So in leadership, I will take first step on leadership. Second, educate everyone in campus about transgender issue by organizing various conferences, consulting with transgender experts, aware about their attitudes and behavior should be toward the third gender. Yes.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am. So this was the topic. Should I explain it, ma'am?
No, it's okay. It's self-explanatory.
Okay. So third point is let all the students know about the problems and difficulty level of transgender throughout their life and try to remove stereotype in logical way. Yes, the logical way is the best thing because the people find it like, I think that removing stereotype is better if we use a logical way because people promote logical things than anything else. Like if we will say कि ये मत करो तो वो नहीं मानेंगे, लेकिन अगर कोई लॉजिकल तरीके से आप समझाने की कोशिश करेंगे तो वो accept it. They will accept that. The fourth one is treat them like normal student. No need to give them extra care, attention. Yes, I personally feel like if there is anyone disabled or anyone transgender, we usually do that. We give them extra care or extra attention, like wo aisa hai, wo aisa hai, wo aisa hai. Don't do that.
Correct. Very true.
By giving them that attention, they will get very anxious and be so aware about them. Like any little act, they will be so aware, like कोई mistake ना हो जाए या क्यों लोग मुझ पे इतने ज्यादा ध्यान दे रहे हैं. तो don't do that. Try them to let be comfortable in the society and be comfortable with you. Fifth one is let more and more similarities between let more and more similarities. I think there's mistake. Let more and more similarities between different genders and also give them equal opportunities to show their talent in all sectors of campus. Let the people know all the similarities between different gender instead of letting them know what the difference between gender. If they will know that these genders are similar, like leaving some basic biological things, their nature or their want or their need is similar, so they will be more acceptable. They will take a more acceptable nature toward other genders and give them transgenders, give them equal opportunities. Usually it happens, like we were discussing in the last class, like there is no reservation for them, or it's less than 1% reservation for them. This is wrong. This is very wrong. You should give them equal opportunity to show their talents, and it should be in all sectors of the campus. Sixth and the last one is make every student aware about their rule and regulations. Yes, all the students should be know about that the transgenders are such topic that the rule and regulations is made for them, and they have some right in the society, in the country. You cannot treat them like a thing. You should treat them as equal you are. Yes, that's how we end our presentation. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you.
Very good. Very well done. Round of applause for them for bringing it, proper presentation to the class. Everybody else answered the questions, everybody else did the case study, but presentation was this one, right? Very good. Okay, so next is Ruchi Adricha. Who wants to go?
Yes, ma'am. Shall I?
Yeah, please go.
This case study is all about, ma'am, transgender girl. There, the name of the girl was Tiara. She went to the college for her first year of admission, and she got the admission anyhow, and the campus did not offered her to leave their campus like housing. Then anyhow she got other housing out of college. She got to live there with other transgenders, and people were not knowing about her, what she is, a girl or boy. She is a transgender. But one day she told her friend that she is transgender. After knowing her, like that she is transgender, people started like behaving, reacting very differently. From which, by which Kiara was very surprised, and she was very like, shocked to see all these activities and all the behaviors, changing of behaviors. So, and once there was a group who had fought regarding this topic, that whether she is a girl or she is a boy. And after meeting, uh, this is the only thing, ma'am. I just want to say that uh, she was very uncomfortable, uncomfortable because in the campus people were not accepting her because of her gender only, because she was transgender. So I just want to say that we are the only society. Society starts from us only, from the very single person. Society starts. So we should not behave like that. We should educate the people, or our nearbys are from. It should start from our home only itself. We should be given knowledge. We should be given. We should be educated from the childhood. So this is the main point. What I was like, I want to express. So shall I go with the questions, ma'am?
Yeah, please.
What do you do if Kiara come to you for the help? Yes, when Kiara will come for the help, definitely. First of all, I'll ask her to be very comfortable, because once she will be comfortable, she will be more like uh, um, expressive. She can express her feelings, that what she is feeling, what she is going through. So, um, and we should talk to the campus persons, our friends and colleagues, making them understand that there is nothing unusual with her, because we have accepted many things in our life, that like periods and gay, lesbians. We have societies nowadays, like yesterday we were talking like sexual harassment. So these things are, we are these days we are very liberal and we are very open. So there is nothing new, because the society is accepting very slowly. Yes, we are accepting, but it takes time. But yes, we are accepting. So we have to make them each other understanding anyhow, that there is nothing very unusual with her. She also wants to study. So let us help her only. Okay. Um, the second question was, so the answer of the second question was, we should make awareness by, know, mm, in school, there should be a lesson, like some parts have been taught in class 8 or 9. Some important topics have been like, we have also gone through it in class 8 or 9 regarding sexual things. So it should be taught to the every student, so that they can also make their mind that this is acceptable. They should know. Okay. And we can do campaigns. We can we can and in offices also there should be this policies also. It should be very mandatory in every organization, and everywhere there should be a policy. Okay. And why do you think it is more difficult for some people? Yes, this is very difficult for some of the people, because we don't have knowledge. Even we are talking to the topic, but whenever we see some transgender, we also react very differently. We react, but as we are talking here, but we react very unusual. But this is not actually, some TV programs are going on in TV, and courts are also like adapting this cultures, gay and living relationship, and many of the things are coming, and people are accepting. Even law is also accepting. So we should accept and not behave like unusual. And what are the some steps the campus should take and create awareness? Yes, campus should always keep mm, some gathering and some what presentations or some discussion among the students, so they are more into like, because they should be aware of this, and they will accept whenever any situation will come. They will be having knowledge of this, and they will not react like that. and they should give like they should not feel different, like make them what I make you understand is they should not make feel anybody that she is or he is a transgender, or he or she should not feel uncomfortable in any of the colleges or any of the or anywhere, not in colleges, anywhere. We should always support.
Correct.
Like when stay free ad was coming when we were in 7th, used to come, the ad used to come, we felt very, like, uh, ashamed in front of our parents. Nowadays stay free ads are coming, any ads are coming, and people are very comfortable, even are very comfortable. So the main thing is awareness. Yes, what is being taught to us from childhood, that we are accepting,
Yeah.
that we are accepting. Are also accepting this living relationship and casteism, marriage, intercaste marriage. So this is also a part, a small part, not the whole thing, but a small part in the society. So this should be a policy, there should be a topic from the very childhood, from the very starting. So it will take time, but within 5-10 years, it will be like common as nowadays other things have been. Like this is my.
Good. So sitting at home watching the advertisement is different. Still, 18% of women only in India use pads during their menstruation or menstrual cups or something. 73, no, more than that. 82% still don't have the access to pads, normal pads. They either use clothes, they either use bad clothes, whatever, different kind of things. So the world has to change a lot. India still needs good greater push from people like us. Yeah, it's huge. So trans women obviously is not been acceptable. I don't know how these guys live in India. Okay, good. Which one? Who is left? Adricha.
Yes,
Adricha,
ma'am.
ready? Yeah. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead.
This is the story of a girl. Her name is Kiara, who have gone to college and she is in her first year. She was a transgender woman. She told this to a friend. Being transgender, she did not get a place in college hostel, but got a separate apartment. Then Kiara started this transition and began using their preferred pronouns. The people who were with Tiara for the first year suddenly started having different relationship with her. They don't want that she attend any event with them. Uh, After knowing that she is a transgender, people treated her very differently. One day she attended a LGBT alliance meeting where she observed that most of the cisgender members were aware of the challenges faced by transgender on campus, but were not curious on this. In this case study, we have seen that there is a lack of inclusion, because in last class we have discussed about inclusion, and inclusion, it doesn't matter which community people belong to, what is their color, etc. But here this all matters, because here being treated differently with transgender. So ma'am, that's all about case study.
Question answers?
Yes, ma'am. First question, what would you do if Kiara came to you for help? Ma'am, if Kiara came to me for help, then I shall help her. First thing which I will do, I will give her personal support, so that she should not feel that she is alone here. And second thing which I do, respect to her identity, because she feel that I can help her only, then she has come to me. And third and most important thing, which I will do here, I'm alone, so I can't do much more. That's why I will create a group of some people, physically and through social sites also, so that we can make people aware for their support and to understand them. And second question, Second question. Transgender students become weak during personal attacks. So we can start them in. We can start supporting them in many ways. Like if any program is happening in the college, then give them a chance to participate so that they can share their points with us and aware them for their studies. Like if they got good marks in college, then take his or her name in front of whole class so that his confidence increase and he or she went ahead ignoring the words of the people.
Right.
And third question. Ma'am, it is more difficult for some people to accepting of different gender identities because we live in a very strange society where people have already set their mind. Like people think about that only boys can do this work, not girls, and transgender is very far away. And if any changes come in our society, then they can't accept it. Like if someone talks to a transgender, then people take them in a very different way and different things started to happen. Overall, I want to say that people have already set their minds, so that they they do not accept any different things. And fourth question.
Correct.
What is Ma'am, campus could take some step to create awareness and acceptance of different gender identities on campus. So first is no discrimination between students. They can be from any background and any gender. It doesn't matter. And second, everyone is allowed to participate in all the event of the college. Either there is a girl, boys, and any other. And third, treat everyone equally, so that they can so that they can show their creativity.
Yes.
That's all from my side, ma'am. Thank you.
Good. Very good. So I like the way you all have answered the questions very nicely, especially question number 2 and 4. So any point of debates that you want to have, or it's all clear? Right? It is just my question to all of you is in the first question, if it is being said that what would you do if Kiara come to you for help? So would you actually go out of the way to help somebody like that? Would you do it in your real life? No matter you face some problems with your parents, with society and all that, still you will do that? Or is just for answering the questions on case study?
No, ma'am.
No,
For
ma'am,
me,
for
ma'am, it
what?
would be a bit difficult to go against. Initially, it would be
So you have that determination to go against your parents for that?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
no?
Yes, ma'am, I have. But yes, it depends upon how much, till how we can endure it and we stay in that kind of, you can say, war. Because
Yeah,
it is.
it gets into a war.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a very close family member who's like that, and I know the war he is fighting every day with everybody except me and my husband. Nobody else talks to him. So that's the kind of war you have to fight amongst the family. He has very good friends. He has a very good life that he's living. He's a well-known uh, fashion designer, but still he doesn't want to come out. I mean, the family is not accepting. So it's not accepting. That's the way it is, right? So the families are like that. Why I'm asking this question is because once you turn, see what our personal views about certain things are going to have a very greater impact when you turn into an human resource professional, right? Because it becomes your daily routine to hire such people, to manage those people, to talk to those people. So if we have any kind of biases in our mind about these people, or any prejudices or any stereotypes that we have been turning around in our mind since the childhood, and it actually plays like a radio playing, people have been talking about these issues in a very negative manner. Like, some of you gave an example that I think Bushra said that कि जादू करते हैं, don't talk to them. So it's a very similar incidents keep happening amongst our neighborhood society. People will keep talking about that. I have heard personally so many comments because I support this guy amongst the family, though he's from my husband's side family. Still, so we had to hear so many comments. So that's a very normal routine for people to come out and talk about these issues, right? But when we become human resource manager, we become very empower oriented. Empower oriented means that we don't have to don't look into the gender biases or any such biases that comes, whether transgender, whether other genders, any other things that comes under diversity and inclusion. We have to become somebody who believes in human empowerment. Right? So that's one word which is very essential for us to believe in. Human power empowerment basically works on, it does not work on feminism, it does not work on any other equality basis. It works at every human, whosoever is there in this world, on this earth, deserves to get an equal chance, an equal opportunity. Right? No matter what exactly that person's orientation, whether gender, sexual, or any other thing, we don't have to really go into that thing. Work towards whether the person is skilled enough to do that job or not. Simple as that. There is no other thing beyond that. But it doesn't happen that way, right? We will go into the details of it. So there were some questions that Srishti and Anika wanted to ask. What was that?
Yes, some question number 3. I mean, I'm having a bit of confusion between gender identities and sexual identities. We both did a bit of research on what exactly these two terms are. My question was like, mostly we see that sexual identity is a problem. Like people are more concerned ki, oh my God, she's attracted to a woman. She being a woman is attracted to a woman. That is like a problem. But over here, the question is saying that gender identity is a problem. So,
Both.
I mean,
Yeah. So both the things are problem. Gender identities are basically acceptance of, we call it queer segment, right? Queer. Generally, the English meaning of queer, if you search about it, it will say unique, somebody who is little different from us, right? Now, these are the people who can be anybody. People who are born, जिनको हम हिजड़ा जानते हैं, मतलब since birth we know that they are born like that. They do not have a specific genital like a woman or a man, so they are born like that. Right? Now, then there are people who are born like a man, but they feel since very birth they feel that they are a woman inside their own body. So their genital parts, their sexual, I mean, the body would be of a man completely, but the orientation that they will have within their body would be of a woman. So that's called transgenders, right? These are the people who generally become transgenders. So it can happen to a woman, it can happen to a man. So they are generally like that. Now these are the people. So suppose there is a man who thinks that he's a woman inside. So then this person would be sexually oriented to a man, right? Because he feels. So that's the confusion that's there. So many people would not be able to understand that till the time they don't read about it. See, education comes either from self-learning or by going through the experiences. Right? So I happen to got into all these things because I wanted to create something different for the school students. So that's why we created this entire research about gender blender thing. Then happened to get married to my husband. We saw that this family member is facing this trouble, these problems very closely. I happened to see it, so I went into even more detailed research that what exactly is the problem, what exactly is this. Then again, I happened to meet some people who are working on to this particular area, and this guy is a very famous trans woman, and he very openly comes out and talk about various issues. He lives very nearby in Chandigarh itself, and then we keep meeting each other. He is a good friend, he or she, whatever you want to call. He doesn't like him to call him. So he is a very good friend of us, and he keeps sharing about these issues, these topics. He's doing PhD right now, so that's how So some universities have opened up to this idea. He's doing it from Chandigarh University, so he's open to such ideas. Some universities are, but some universities, some campuses, some organizations are still not open to. So that is the reason why these people are not available openly for job, even if they are very well qualified. Right? Very few people have come out. So now I think India has selected one of the MLAs somewhere in South. She's representing transgender. Right? There is a girl, again a woman. I don't know whether he was a man earlier, how he or she become transgender. but he is also a doctor now in a very good hospital. So the examples are there, but they are very few. You can actually count them on the fingers. Inclusion says that there should be an equal opportunity. They should be there. The population, even if they are 5% of the whole population, their chances are that at least in one classroom you would be able to see one transgender sitting across just next to you. Right? So these are the things that we have to do in inclusion. So if you're working in a company, in an organization, you should be able to see at least 2 or 3 people amongst a population of 50,000 employees, right? Which is not happening. So that's why this discussion, and that's why these topics that we want to brought in. There is another case study that I'll send across to you, because I will not be continuing the classes from tomorrow. I mean, from next week, sir will be back for continuing his topics. So once we'll be back with my classes, my topic starting in March or somewhere, then we will again come back to the sexual orientation. I mean, amongst the posh topic, then we will include all that. Okay, so let's take a break at 7:15. Take 5 minutes break quickly, and then I'll start the PPT. We'll finish that we started. All right.
Okay.
See you. All right, shall we begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So anyone of you who can write down the notes, right? Open up your laptop or whatever, whosoever is interested. Just write down whatever people are talking. I mean, share the screen and then write down here. I will not be able to do it because I'll talk. So whosoever wants to do it. Open your PPT or Word and then keep writing.
Ma'am, there was a question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, have you ever come across any transgender or any lesbian in an interview, like in recruiting any candidate in an organization you have come across in an interview?
We did one interview. We got to know she's a homosexual. I mean, she's a lesbian afterwards when she had joined it. But we had no problems.
So, ma'am, were the employees
It came accidentally in front of us. Being in a leadership position, sometimes it's very easy for us to manage things. When it came to my notice, being in HR, the only top HR in the organization, and understanding of all these topics, so obviously I didn't let these things go into a fire. It was not even there in the rumor mill. I told her that you don't have to talk about your sexual orientation in the office. Don't discuss it with people. If they are not comfortable, walk because you are being hired to do your work. Simple. The things can be managed very easily. It can go out of the proportion or things can blow out of the proportion uh, only when you are not there. I mean, people are not really ready to accept those things in the organization. So if they are not acceptable, they are not accepting. And I'm talking about way back. I think in 2009, I'm talking about that this incident happened. Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay. Yes. Yes, please.
Ma'am, was that not like hiding someone's identity so that there's no problem in the organization?
No, no, why were we hiding her identity? She was there, open, working. She was a woman. And see, sexual identities have nothing to do with the way that you are working. Why will you? Did you go to the office and tell that I'm interested in many men? You won't do that, no? So why a woman should do that, right? So simple. So it was her sexual identity. I mean, it was her sexual orientation towards people. It is not harming anybody's job. And it can harm the job when people will start talking about it. So rumor mills, grapevines actually create that kind of an aura and things can go out of proportion. And the only fear to the management is basically people are wasting time in these rumor mills. So what they try and do is they try to find out the reason, the root cause of it, and then they tell this person to leave. Right? So why should we get into these things when you're not really meant? See, people understand that work is basically everything for us, because we earn money out of it. But for me, for not for me, it should be in general. It should be like that. It is just a part of our job. Though we spend a good amount of time working because we have to live according to the standards of the society. So we want to earn more money and hence we give a lot of time to the work. But out of 24 hours, it's only 8 hours that we spend in the office. Rest, everything else is our life. Work is a part of that life. That is why these things about work-life balance also doesn't really work for me. Because work is something that you should be enjoying doing. Right? It's not just a method or means to earn money. It is something that you are enjoying. It is something that you have chosen because you really love, you have a passion, you have an interest. It's a career for you, and that's the reason why you are into it. So when you are into it, why do you want to talk about your personal things? Imagine now if you're in office and you start talking and gossiping about your mother-in-law. Very hot topic, generally have for all married women, right? So obviously it does not really have any orientation. You don't really have to talk about it. It's just a gossip session that people have, right? No need actually, no requirement. So sexual orientation is like that. My sexual needs, the way I feel about people, the way I want to have my, even if somebody is willing to have more than one partners, we are nobody to comment on that. Who are we? It's their life, the way they want to live. It's purely should be open about that. Yes, ma'am. So, Srishti, let's start. So, before we continue the presentation that we were talking about yesterday, let's talk about the biases that generally happens, which comes in the path of inclusion or which comes in the path of giving equality and equity to people. So, that's what she is going to write about. BIA. It is pronounced biases, but it is spelled BIA, right? So now what kind of biases are there? So let me just write it down. So I'll just speak, you can write it down. So number one is affinity bias. Affinity, AFF, INI, TY. Second is confirmation. Third is attribution. Conformity. CON. The confirmation के बाद attribution के बाद conformity. 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 Then the halo effect. Horn's effect. Then contrast effect. Gender bias. Ageism. Age से बना है AGEISM. Ageism. Name bias.
AGEISM.
ISM. Age and then ism. Then name bias. No, ageism के बाद name है. Next. Name के बाद beauty bias. Height bias. Mix हो गया. GIGHT. Anchor bias. Then non-verbal bias. Anchor is fine. E हटा दो last में. Yeah. Then non-verbal bias. Then authority bias. And the last is overconfidence bias. All right, so let's begin with the first one. Let's start with that. So these are 16 biases. Which affects? These are all unconscious bias which creates somewhere or the other way creates a hindrance, can create a barrier where we have to do a good communication, we have to do hiring, we have to manage people, no matter what. When we are in organization, all these things start coming to our things. So what do you understand by the first one, affinity bias? What is affinity bias? We talked about it yesterday, a little very briefly. That we generally, what tend to happen in our organization is, especially with recruiters, that they tend to see the affinity with people. शर्मा है, hire कर लेते हैं, मैं भी शर्मा हूँ. Any kind of thing that मेरा इसके साथ अच्छा बनेगा, I will go along with this person very well. इसकी और मेरी some interests are common, some hobbies are common, so let me hire this person in the organization. Right, and it happens with us almost all the time, and it comes very unconsciously, because since birth we are being born like that. Our nature is like that, like a human. We unconsciously are trained like that we have to go, even friends when we make, we try and find out what is a common interest amongst us. So this is how affinity bias actually takes place, right? So now, how do you can handle affinity bias in organization? Suppose you are a recruiter, you have this bias, you can find out easily that I am actually doing this bias by getting accustomed to it, by getting to be, or maybe with awareness and acceptance, you can actually get to know that you are actually going through this particular bias. So what are the things that you're going to do so that it doesn't happen?
We might we can receive those resumes, or like we can receive just a list of people where their titles are not included, so that it does not create any kind of like a pre-mindset in our mind. Okay, this person is from this category, so we both can merge together better.
Right, okay. What else can be done? सिंपल चीजें हैं, ज्यादा कुछ कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज नहीं है इसमें.
We should see actual skills and abilities which we are looking for.
Absolutely. So, our focus should remain on the actual skills and attributes, and ensure that you're not going towards that affinity side, even if you have written it down somewhere. Because when, as a recruiter, we start making notes, right? So that's a habit every recruiter has. It should have in every recruiter, that when you are hiring somebody, suppose you are taking a call, you're speaking for the candidate for the very first time. So on call only, you can just ask the question which is related to the skill set and very briefly about the family status and structure, just to know that what kind of family structure, what kind of efforts this person has actually put in terms of bringing him or her to that level. That's all. So nothing more than that, right? So become very conscious about this bias is one way of actually dealing with it. So it's not really very difficult one, and it doesn't harm too much. Until unless you have 7 candidates and out of which you are just handling or hiring those people who you have affinity with, then it becomes a trouble. Correct. Now comes to the second bias. What is confirmation bias? So confirmation bias is basically our inclination, attraction, when we start drawing conclusion about somebody very quickly, right? Purely because we had certain prejudiced stereotypes going on in our mind.
Like first impression, like bias.
Yes, can be first impressions, can be the belief systems and the personal desires that we have, and that this person might be fulfilling it, so you get naturally attracted to it, and you give them a confirmation on that basis, right? So that is what the confirmation bias talks about. A lot of things can come into confirmation biases, and very easy to remove from our day-to-day life. So the only thing is, once you become aware, you start giving practice towards all these things. Right. So one same thing, that how can you move ahead from confirmation bias, is the same thing that Ruchi said. Very skill based, merit based hiring has to be there, right? Third is attribution bias. What is attribution bias? So attribution bias basically happens, for example, that you hear some stories about somebody and you form an opinion about them without knowing the details about what exactly happened. So, for example, let's take though it's a very extreme kind of example, but suppose you come across a person who says that he or she is a rape survivor and she has come to you for a job. What kind of opinion you will form? Right? So,
A very
we
strong,
will, sorry?
like we'll have a very strong support. I mean, from my side, I'll have a very strong support for the person, like give her some kind of special attention or some special like backup from my side.
Correct. So maybe you, because you are aware about this. So now think about the normal human being, maybe a male, maybe another female, whosoever is doing that. What will happen in that case? Right? So
Try to
people
run away
might,
from.
yeah, so people might found or might, have that kind of an attribution bias where they have this thing in their mind that it might be her fault that she's a rape victim or rape survivor, right? So that's the first thing that we generally start. The society is like that, that if something is going wrong with a woman, we start commenting on the dresses that they wear, the way they actually deal, the way they live their life, whatever. So normally, so many things happens. And again, it's an unconscious bias because we keep hearing these stories. The more you put forward your foot in society, in organizations, the more you hear people, what they have to say, the bystander talking about all those things, the more chances are that you have attribution biases towards people. Right? So it's an extreme case, I said, about the rape survivor. It can be about anything, any story for that matter. So very small example can be that somebody says that suppose there is a man who comes to you for a job and he says, I was working really well, but then I took 2 years break because I wanted to go out. I was not feeling good about working in an organization. So that 2 year break, that means the first thing will come in our mind is कि कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ होगा. He might be fired from the organization. So these are unconscious bias, right? So how will you come across? How will you avoid having these attribution biases?
Stop making assumption by myself.
Perfect. So stop assuming, ask questions, right? Ask the right questions. That why were you on break? Why it took so much long time? What were you doing during those? So you are a curious being. You can ask questions, and the person will understand that because I was on a 2 years break, so obviously every recruiter has a right to ask me questions, right? So the right
So,
amount of questions without assumptions is the right way of handling it.
so ma'am, this bias is like we can say it's assumption. मतलब इसमें लोग अपने से assumption बनाते हैं. We can say it like that.
Correct. Correct. So on the basis of a small detail, we start attributing the entire assumptions on the conclusions. Right? Then आता है आपका conformity bias. What is conformity bias? What is conformity as a word? What is the meaning?
Ma'am, synonym of approved, we can
Sorry?
say. Ma'am, synonym of approved, we can say.
So approved क्या meaning हुआ फिर इसका?
Conformity,
How can this be a bias?
conformity, I think it's like more on the rules. I mean, like some kind of rigid rules or policies.
No. Conformity is basically approval. We seek. So what happens? Suppose you are again. Let's take this example that you're hiring somebody in the organization, right? So now you have selected that person, and somehow you start discussing the same thing with your peer group, maybe other HRs in the organization, right? That what is your opinion about this candidate? What do you feel? What are the things? And blah blah. Correct. Now the all other people have their own unconscious bias or whatever it is attached, and they say that this person is not really fitting. Though you were sure that you were very sure after asking questions, after everything, after all the assessments and evaluation that you've done, that this candidate fits the profile really well. Right? So conformity bias is when we start giving more value to others' opinion, others' approval about something. Correct? The chances of conformity biases in recruitment, in performance management, in training and development, and at various juncture keeps happening in human resource management because we work in a team and we take team's opinion. The only way you can avoid conformity biases is that ask people to submit their individual assessment. Like we do. In YSI, what we do is that when we take final examination, that's what we did with the last two batches, that final examination, every faculty will give their own evaluation of children, and then sir will collate all the numbers, and that's how the grades will be given. So there won't be any chances that if I have some favorite or Hardik sir has some favorite, they will be getting much more better numbers, or so that is how the conformity biases can be done. So as a recruiter, what you can do is 3 or 4 recruiters are hiring one person, ask them to give their evaluation, see how much numbers, and purely on the basis of skills and merits, assessment numbers, you can select the person, right? Then आता है hello effect. So hello effect पे नामिका बहुत खुश हुई थी. So I want to understand from her what is it that made her happy.
Ma'am, Hardik sir
You know
had
about. Acha, okay.
he had explained few of these biases like halo effect, horn effect, first impression, like spillover, personal and all. So when it came halo effect, like it just striked off my mind. Okay, Hardik sir had taught this thing. So halo effect is when we see only the positive side of someone and neglecting what what drawbacks he or she has in her or his behavior. Like you were talking of favoritism. So like if suppose there's in a classroom also, when there's a class teacher, she always has that one favorite student. So does not matter if that favorite student performs and does not perform well or performs well or is notorious, she will still always be standing with that favorite student of hers. So that is halo effect.
Correct. And when we were actually studying this halo effect in psychology, so what the figure that represents is that the person has a halo on the head, right? The way Jesus used to have, right? So that is why it is called halo effect. So it has come from psychology. It says that unknowingly we get very attracted towards somebody's positive. So, for example, celebrities. We only see one part of them in the movies. We see them as a hero or main hero of the movie, and that's why we feel that attraction towards them without even knowing the background story or without even knowing that as a human being how they are, what they are supposed to be doing, right? So it happens for both. It happens for people who are heroes, who play hero in the movies. It happens with people who play negative roles in the movie also, right? So that halo effect can happen for both. And they have to face a lot of biases. Now in organization, when you are, especially in diversity and inclusion, it can happen, right? How can it can happen with people with diverse backgrounds? What are the things that you can get attracted to?
Ma'am, but in diverse.
Sorry, who all was speaking?
Ma'am, Shrishti and I.
Yeah, please speak.
Ma'am, we can get attracted to their personalities or to their physical appearance sometimes.
Yes, that's a very common one. Other than that?
Financial status also.
Yes, financial status also plays a role. What else?
And I thought this diversity example will be more fitted in horn effect because people see them more negatively than positively. That is why I'm not getting कि diversity का example इस पे सही होगा कि नहीं.
For example, you have 7 candidates for interview. Right? Let's see all 7 of you who are there attending classes today. We are interviewing all of you for a position, correct? Now, halo effect says that I am getting attracted towards one or two of the positive things, right? Without knowing anything about your weaknesses, about such things. So now you come from very diverse background. Some of you might have different gender orientation, different sexual orientation, different kind of background, culturally, regionally, caste, creed, everything. So without diversity says that when you are bringing somebody into the organization, the only way you can have them inside the organization is basis on their skill set, the qualifications, the eligibility criteria of the job description. The person should be fulfilling that. That's all. Correct. Now, if I start getting attracted towards somebody purely because he or she looks very similar to me, or she is the beauty of the class, or he or she is the most attractive person in the class, maybe because I'm single right now and I want to hire somebody who is a man and might be my future husband. So, that is the kind of things that can happen. So that can affect. That is why we are talking about diversity, because it can happen in diverse fields. So you will not make people feel included in the organization if you have that halo effect happening all around you. Right? You said that correctly, that horn effect also works, but halo effect also works both ways. All these are unconscious biases which we carry with us almost all the time. Until the time we are not aware about them, I'm sure half of them you have not even heard about, not spoken about. And this is what happens, when we are studying it for the very first time, we hardly had any idea about these biases. And that's when we realize that, oh my God, so many things can actually happen. We have done so many wrongs in our life purely because of these unconscious biases. Correct? So let's come to the horn effect. So how's horn effect works?
It's
Just opposite to halo, negativity that we see. Correct? So how are you going to encounter that? How are you going to avoid situations where you have that horn effects happening?
Try to see positivity.
Ma'am, being completely rational about in the organization.
we should keep our personal thoughts aside and think of it that even if the person is of that skill of knowledge or not, of which we are looking for.
Sorry, Ruchi, your voice did not come clear. Speak again.
We should keep our personal thoughts aside for the particular person. Something comes in our mind, and we should keep on focusing that for which we are hiring of. If the
Right.
person is for the particular job or not, for the particular profile or not.
See, generally what happens with halo effect and horn effect is basically there is something in our subconscious mind which is stored. The way we have experiences. Yeah, we have gone through the experiences from our childhood to the time we have become an adult, and it has become a very integral part of the personality. And when we start getting, so sometimes what happens is with horn effect, you start getting that gut feeling in your stomach or wherever, right? So that gut feelings tells you that you are not really happy about this person right now. So you have to find out, you have to go into the details of your subconscious mind very consciously, take effort and find out what is it that is happening in your mind and what are the reasons. So the chances are the more you open up your thought process, the more you are able to open up your subconscious mind, you will get the solution of these whole horn effect and halo effect out there. And this you will encounter every time. Hiring, induction, orientation, performance management, giving them training, exit interviews, so many times. The moment you have to deal with people in your organizations, you are going to face all these unconscious biases at that point in time.
Sometimes, ma'am, we feel when we go through their resumes, na, someone are parents, or some are widow, or some are from very poor background. Then is that's hollow and horn. This effect come automatic. This comes.
Absolutely. So a lot of negative things we keep actually, बहुत सारे horn effects, generally works like police वाले हैं. So we have a very negative image of police wala somehow. Correct. And it's not the case that every police wala is like that. So that stereotype builds in purely because of these horn effects or hero effects, right? Halo effects, sorry. So these are very small ones. Similarly, for we have these kind of effect biases for Biharis, regionally बड़े सारे हैं ऐसे वाले. that Biharis are like that, Punjabis are like that. So, these are religious biases and this comes under it. And it actually creates a problem in your working in organization. So, especially for human resource people, anybody, whosoever is in the process of hiring and recruitment should be taken towards a training program where they are talking about these biases. And that's the reason why we are doing it today. So,
Ma'am,
yes, please. Yeah.
Practically, how is it difficult? How much it is difficult to just chase these biases away?
Not much, very simpler. These unconscious biases are very simpler. You become conscious about it. Next time when you're talking to somebody, just put some pressure on you. Right? Put some pressure in the sense that become very conscious about what you're saying and what you're noticing in that person. That's it. 2-3 times. After 2-3 times you do it with different people, you will automatically will be able to remove these biases.
Okay,
Right?
ma'am.
It comes with practice. You just have to practice it, talking to people, recruitment may, while doing certain things. Sometimes it used to happen with us initially. There was an assistant of mine in my organization. She used to get attached to people immediately after recruitments. She would say, "No, ma'am, please hire her. I really like her." And I used to ask this question what is one thing? Tell me one thing that you like this about this person. And then she used to get confused. So she was a fresher out from a college. She was doing BBA and then she joined. So very innocently, very sweetly, but she used to get. So she had that very emotional, innocent side to her. That every candidate, it was not just for one or two or more, it was for every candidate. She would like one particular thing, and she will say, "No, ma'am, hire. She needs a job. He needs this job." All that stuff. That's so these unconscious biases actually plays that kind of a role. All right, then आता है contrast effect bias. So contrast effect bias क्या कहता है? What is contrast effect? When do the contrast start happening?
If one's thought is not matching with me, then this bias come.
Right. So contrast effect is that, in hiring it will happen a lot of time. Why it happens is because you have for one position multiple applications. Out of multiple applications, now what you have shortlisted are also a lot of people. And you have shortlisted all of them because you liked certain things, maybe about their skill set and we are just talking about the skills and merits and everything. So contrast effect says that you get confused. So it's like a mind-boggling situation where you are confused at which one to pick up because you like each one of them equally good as a candidate for the company. Right? So how?
Strong decision.
Yes, so you need strong decision making for this particular thing, that you would be able to evaluate one person to another on purely on the basis of the skill set and competencies that you're hiring for. Simple as that. Right? So there is a saying which says that you should be able to segregate apples from apples and oranges from oranges. That's what you will have to do. Going into the details about each and everything. So even if it is creating confusion, similar institutes, similar qualifications, similar percentages, similar evaluation, find out that one thing where you can actually give them more marks or less marks so that you can evaluate better. Right? And this one will happen a lot of time. Contrast effect will come. And it's not a bad bias actually. It's a very genuine situation.
I'm having confusion with the contrast effect and halo and horn, because contrast mein you said ki we might like something about someone, or we might not like some particular thing about someone. So that is what is discussed in halo and horn effect also, like liking some positive sign or liking some negative, not liking some negative signs.
So contrast is basically saying that, in multiple applications. So for example, you met the excellent candidate, one of the excellent candidates, right? Suppose you interview 3 candidates today for one position. So now out of these 3 candidates, the first one was not very good, just an average candidate. Second was so brilliant that automatically the third candidate started looking very weak in front of that. because you started having that contrast effect bias in your mind. Right? So this is what starts happening with us when we meet exceptionally good candidates or exceptionally bad candidates. So halo effect, horn effect, contrast effect can happen all together. Though halo effect says that you get attracted to one positive side of the person, which you may have felt or experienced, and that's why you are attracted to that. Horn effect says that there is a negative things that you start noticing in that person more, again because your subconscious mind has gone through it, and one person only can have horn effect and halo effect for two different persons at one point in time, depending upon how you started your day also. Sometimes what happens is when you're starting from home, you had a fight with somebody at home, maybe your parents, your siblings, anyone who had spoiled your mood. Now you go to the office, you start interviewing the candidates, and this candidate looks very similar to your sibling with whom you had a fight. So you will have this effect coming to you immediately, right? And that is what happens a lot of times. It's just a small example I've given, but imagine the memory keeps storing so many experiences in our subconscious mind. And when you meet somebody, you won't even remember or recall what exactly happened with you, why you have such a dislike about this person. But when you go deeper down, you will be able to realize that. For example, the same example like I want to give that these policemen do a lot of good work also, but because of the movies, because of so many negative news, so many things, these are they take rishwat, they don't do work without doing all these things. So we get this unconscious bias regarding them unknowingly, without having our own personal experiences then, purely because we have heard these stories, because we have got to know from society various experiences, exposures, and no matter whether you were paying attention at that point in time, all these things were getting stored in your mind. And hence now when you have to deal with a police officer for any work, now you have this subconscious mind coming to where you start feeling that horn effect bias towards them unknowingly, right? So see, in normal terms, in very simpler terms, all the biases can be get away from our conscious memory. Is purely with the way that we start paying attention to people, how they are. Simple. Don't get attached to their past experiences, your past experiences. Treat people like they are right now at this point in time. No past, no future, just present. फिर आ जाता है आपका gender bias is very common. We all know about that, right? So we are not going to detail the discussions of it. So how can you actually find out how to avoid gender biases? प्राची, बुशरा, अधी, रिचा, विशाखा सब चुपचाप बैठे हैं, क्यों भाई?
Try accepting other gender's opinion. By doing that, we can get rid of this bias.
Ma'am, again, I would.
Competencies.
Yeah, so competency skills are there, but then sometimes deliberately you can push yourself to hire some people because of diversity. Because you have diversity goals also to play in picture when you're hiring recruitment, you're doing that, right? So if you have suppose two candidates, one man who is good enough, one woman who is good enough, but you have diversity goal also to play. So which one will you prefer to hire?
Depends if the organization has like more number of men or more number of women. Like if it's more number of men, then definitely women would be hired, and if it's more number of women, then men should be hired.
More number of women is not there. Any organization, small startups would have, but none of the organizations will ever have anywhere in the world.
Like nowadays,
yeah,
like
women there are many smaller companies where it's 100% women oriented. Yes, there are. Ruchi, your voice is not coming. Network issues. Yeah, we are not able to hear you.
Now, ma'am, I am audible.
Yeah, now it's clear.
It depends upon situation to situation. If any client management, if someone has to go like out of city or traveling or field work, then of course we will be going to have male. Or in office, it depends upon. Then it's always we will give priority to female first, and because we are also maintaining 20 to 30% female staff.
Correct. So if they are equal, give priority to women. If they are not equal, then obviously whosoever is better. So that evaluation. And that can happen with any gender, not just with women and men. Right? Then आता है आपका ageism. Ageism is what?
This is of age.
We being youth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So some organizations prefer to hire youth, some organizations prefer to hire experienced people, and a lot of people say that after they become 50, it gets very difficult for them to change the jobs purely because of these ageism bias. So somehow people say that experiences is good, expertise is good, but then still they don't want to hire such people, though they have 10 good years, long years before their retirement age to work on a lot of things. Still people don't hire them purely because they feel that the person might have low energy, they will not be that physically fit to perform the jobs, mentally they won't be available, they will have more, what do you call it, duty towards their family, all those things. So a lot of biases comes under ageism. Similar thing can happen for youth, young, inexperienced, immature, all those things. So this can actually help create that. Name bias, obviously, if somebody like already said Sharma ji hai to Sharma ji ko hire करेंगे, ये सब तो बहुत चलता है. So India में this you will find so many times. You know, हमारे यूपी का है, so let's hire this person. She's from UP. So that is a very common thing. And it happens huge amount of time. It happens. You know, a lot of researches have been done on these biases, and people say 28% is the name bias which goes. It's very high. So हमारी मासी का लड़का है, हमारे उसका लड़का है. I don't know what all. You will be able to hear. You know, you will get such calls also from your relatives. Trust me, the day you become HR and then they know that you are heading HR in organization, you will get so many applications from your family members only.
मैम लोग कहीं भी पकड़ते हैं.
Yeah, so they will do that. Anywhere, anybody. You know, my driver used to tell me, मेरी मासी का लड़का है, उसको रख लो कहीं पर भी, adjust करा दो. So it gets difficult sometimes. You cannot do that. You have a position, you want to help them out, do that purely on skills and merit. Just keep that in mind. Then आता है आपका beauty biases. अब beauty biases is everywhere. People want to hire fair complexion women. They want to hire handsome men, especially when it comes to customer success, service job, all those things. So socially, because we are inclined towards these things, so this is how. Even now, if you see a matrimonial ad, it will still talk about fair, tall girl, right? Slim, tall, fair girl. So this is still happening. So till the time it is happening, it is going to happen in organizations. So how you can again evaluate, and it happens, you know, most of the time when you see somebody who is not really in terms of beauty of features and face, you tend to get unbiased towards them. Right, the person has dark complexion, not really looking good, not really on the very beautiful side physically, then you tend to have this bias very, very commonly in that. So just make sure that you are attentive towards the assessment and evaluation that you are hiring. Yeah, next is, what is next? Height bias. Height is again the same thing, short and tall and all that. Anchor biases. Right now, anchor bias is also very similar to the other biases that we have spoken initially. So anchor biases actually is something that, you know, you tend to like very one peculiar thing in their CVs or their resumes, and then you start to feel that this is the only point for which you want to hire this person in the organization. So like the anchor does his job for the ship, right? It goes into the ship and then, you know, it takes care of the entire thing. So generally the recruiters, the performance manager, the people managers, they get into this thing that I really love this thing about this person. So very common with halo effect it can come, but in halo effect again we are not really judging the right skills and competencies. In anchor bias, even if you're judging right skills and competencies, you get attached to one particular competency so much that you want to hire this person. So for example, suppose I give you a real life example of somebody, of me and a person who is working with me, right now. So we had to hire a person for a position for which we have been doing almost, I think, for a month or so. The position is for an IT person for backend developer. We want very specific job recruitments. I mean, the specific skill set that we want. So Python Django combination is very rarely available in market, other apart from other things. So what we used to do is, the moment you used to see any CV with Django mentioned in the CV, you used to just send it across to me कि please hire. कर लो बात, इसको ले लो. Without even knowing into the details that how long he has worked in Django, what are the projects that he or she has worked on, all those things. So it comes very unconsciously, it comes very naturally to us because we have that, what do you call, the pressure, we have that timelines that we have to meet. So somehow you can get into this particular mode. So not really a negative thing if you get to know that this person really has that kind of a skill set, but again, going into the details, fitting the person as per the skill set is the best way, competency basis hiring. Then non-verbal biases बहुत सारे होते ही रहते हैं, body languages से non-verbal cues that you start picking from some people, so these things start happening. Right, some people who do very weak handshakes, or they are sitting with folded arms, they are not a lot of other things that people do, right? So we generally create an unconscious bias that his non-verbal language, body language is not correct, so that I should not be hiring this person in the organization, or I should be hiring this person in the organization, whatever, right? Then authority bias. What is authority bias? Comes with the name.
Something related to powers like that we possess.
No, authority.
Ma'am, bias is done by the people in an authority.
Like powers as in the higher position, like when a person is
Achha,
in
you
the
are talking about the powers. Okay, correct. Yeah. Right, so it's basically the status of the person. Right, like we talked about financial status, so it can happen that the person has more authority in the organization, in the previous organization. He or she is getting more attention. Yeah, so some people have that leadership quality about themselves, even when they are standing in a full room full of people, still they stand out purely because of their leadership quality. So that is authority bias that comes naturally. Right, when you start looking into these people, you actually feel attracted towards them because they are looking different, they are looking very high authority, very powerful, all these things. So that's how it can come, right? Also in organization, authority biases comes because my senior has told me to do this, I will do this. Because my peer has asked me to do this, I won't do this. So this will come a lot of time. Right, if my senior has told me something, they are in leadership position, they are more powerful, they have more authority, if they are saying something, that doesn't mean that they are correct. Right, the evaluation assessment still will go in the same way, purely on the skill basis. It cannot have authority biases coming into the picture. Right, so there are two ways of it. Then overconfidence bias is common. Everybody becomes overconfident at some point in time, and that's how it starts coming in.
Ma'am, one thing, in anchor bias, it should be positive. Like you said, one will be attached toward one's competency. So it will be always positive.
It can be negative also, depending upon what your subconscious mind state is at that point in time. But majority of the time, because anchor ka role is very positive in our life, for a ship. So that's how it is being taken as, that it's more positive. So you get attracted towards, not, suppose you want to hire somebody for 5 competencies, right? Generally we have 5 or 6 competencies that we look into somebody. Now you, because you have pressure and you want to hire somebody very quickly in the organization, what you consciously do is, because this person has one very common competency which is highlighted, so 5 out of 5, बाकी सब में 2-3 marks आ रहे हैं. So purely on that 5 out of 5, you start making this correction कि मुझे ये बंदा चाहिए, I want this person in my organization, right? So that's an unconscious bias, which is not correct. Right, so instead of hiring people who have less marks in 4 competencies and good in 1, better is to hire somebody who has above average competency skills in 5. So that's how you can do the evaluation. Again, the evaluation and assessment will based upon the organization to organization, the kind of criteria, the kind of evaluation system that they have created for them, and that's how they can actually evaluate people. Right, so before we end the class, there are just 2 slides in the PPT. I want to finish it because then we won't be, I don't want to carry it along for 2 months, 2 weeks. So we'll finish it. So even if the class is going 10 minutes beyond, just bear with me. So we wanted to discuss this from the yesterday's PPT. I think we had finished. Yeah, so we had talked about the strategies, inclusion place. So best practices. So what are the best practices that you can bring in? So now we have spoken about the biases, which is basically the negative side of it majority of the time. So let's talk about the positive also. What are the positives that you can bring in the organization in terms of diversity and giving complete good treatment to all the employees in the organization is through the fair treatment. Right? So how do you give fair treatment to everybody? That we have spoken about already yesterday. Keep your in mind equity, keep in mind that there are no biases that is coming to picture. What you have to hire is a person, a human, for doing a job which is there in your company. That's it. Now, equal access to opportunity. So what is the best practice that you can actually bring in your organization is that everyone, no matter of which caste, which creed, what is their status, poor, rich, whatever, you have to give them equal access to all the opportunities which are available in the organization. So now many of the times what happens is you recruit people in the company, right? But once you have internal job postings, a lot of new job positions which opens up, again these biases starts to come to play. So what happens is you start giving more preference to the people who gel well with you, because अब organization में आ गए हैं, they have stayed for a long time in the organization, you know them very well, they have become your friends or they have become your best friends, you eat with them, you have dinner, you have to give them a favor. So all these things starts happening. So ensure that all these things should not really cloud your judgment when you are giving them any kind of evaluation. And it can happen any point in time. It can happen recruitment में, onboarding में, performance management में, training and development में, internal job posting के time पे, reference के time पे, at any point in time it can happen. So just ensure that equal access to opportunity should be a best practice that you can involve. Then other teamwork and collaboration. So all your team building games, team building collaborations that you are designing for your organization, when you become a complete HR, then you should be able to give them time and authority in the sense that you build them equal opportunity to play an equal part in the team. Right? So suppose you are designing, now you are in an organization, there is a company which is running already. Now you have to finalize some team for a project or for a committee. You want to create a committee or you want to hire somebody for a project. So when you are creating a team inside the organization, again, a lot of times what we do is we actually start neglecting the diversity. Right? Purely because sometimes we feel that women would not be available after 8 o'clock, so let's not hire her for this project. This person is totally different than what I am, so let's not bring that person into the project. So different kind of things can happen. So what you have to ensure is when you are actually doing, so a lot of teamwork and collaboration, smaller projects, smaller team building games, ice breaking games can actually help the organization remove all that biases, all that
Yes, ma'am.
negativity.
Ma'am, shall I?
Yeah, please.
No, ma'am, the company's what I think the company's vision, any policy-driven system shall ensure that employees have equal right to work, opportunities for right to work in the organization.
Correct. Right. So next is then a focus on innovation and creativity. Right. So every organization, if they have to really grow in terms of their products and services to go out and go multinational, global, what they have to talk about is that there should be a complete focus on how you can bring in more innovation and creativity. And there is no doubt that anybody can bring innovation and creativity.
Right.
Next is organization flexibility, responsiveness, and agility. So that's a very good practice that you can bring in your organization, or you can shape your organization in that manner. That organization is very flexible and responsive. That means flexible and responsive means that if they have done something wrong, they are open to take the reviews and feedbacks about that. Right? When we talk about, so I don't know whether, I don't think you have that. So a very important part of performance management system is the organizational development that we talk about. Right? We are not including that in this course right now, because it's a very huge topic in itself. So when we talk about organizational development, not personal development of employees, then we talk about these things, that how organization develop from being a smaller organization to medium size to large, and how the cultural fit can change from the way they started and now how they are. Right. So for example, when Tata must have started 100 years back, they would not have been the similar kind of culture that they are right now. Right? They are now more open to flexibility. They are so responsive. J.R.D. Tata comes in the canteen, he sits with employees. Wherever he is, in which city, he makes sure that at least one lunch he's having with his own employees. That's a habit. The same thing used to happen with Eddie Godrej, the owner of Godrej. He used to do this thing very particularly. So all those organizations who have developed from smaller organization to the large organization have always remained flexible. They have been responsive to the feedbacks which has come for the people who have given them reviews. They had shared, they have taken those feedbacks in a very open stride and then made changes in the organization and done that, right? And agility is obviously, what is agility? ये सब jargons हैं HR के, याद होने चाहिए सब. सो स्टार्टअप ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अंदर एजिलिटी, हसलर, ये सारे वर्ड्स बहुत जल्दी सुनोगे. मतलब एवरी ओनर विल टॉक अबाउट. सो हसलिंग, एजिलिटी इज बेसिकली डूइंग थिंग्स वेरी फास्ट. You have to be on the move always, learning different manner, making changes as and when required. You cannot sit. So the times are like that. When an Apple iPhone in 2 years can launch 11, 12, 12 Pro, 13, 13 Pro. Imagine 5 different versions on Apple in just 2 years of time. So this is how good and how fast the technology is changing. So we have to adapt to the technology, we have to adapt to the times which is changing. Then we have to do that. Then next is conflict resolution process that are collaborative. So every organization works on conflict resolution. There is a complete mechanism which works on conflict resolution. That will come under your laws and legalities when that topic will come. So conflict resolution has to happen the way the government has actually given the policies about that. There is a complete addressal system and do that for that. But organization as a best practice what they can do is they can create their own internal committees which can help the organization resolve conflicts. So conflicts specifically coming out of diversity, for inclusion, for a related topic that we are discussing right now, that can be handled in a very fast track manner, so that it gives satisfaction to people that when we are in an organization, I have that sense of ownership that I belong to this organization, I am being valued, my things are being listened. Then आता है आपका evidence of leadership's commitment to diversity. So it's not just the talk of the thing, you have to walk the talk also. So if your leaders are actually doing that thing, so they have to showcase it. Right? It's not really something that you have just spoken about it in an interview, you are talking about in your branding, but actually the things are not happening inside the organization. So the evidence of leadership commitment is that there should be happening. So every time a leader become a leader purely when they start walking the talk. Right? So preaching, practicing what they preach. Next आ जाता है आपका representation of diversity at all levels of the organization. So which we have already discussed that it's one of the best practices that at least 1 or 2 members are there at every level. So you can showcase. So there should be, when people would come to your organization or when you are posting pictures of yourself on your website, it should clearly show that there is a black woman, there is a white woman, there is a brown woman, black men, LGBTQ person, transgender, everybody, so that kind of picture will give a complete representation of the diversity at all levels in the organization. Right. Then next is diversity education and training that we have already spoken in the strategies yesterday. that it's very important that you conclude or have gender sensitivity training, diversity sensitivity training every quarter, right? And also when the onboarding is happening. फिर आ जाता है आपका representation of diversity among internal and external stakeholders. So it's not just about the internal organization now. So now you have stakeholders like vendors, people, shareholders, directors, so many people who are involved in the entire process of how the organization move from one way to another. So ensure that even if you are hiring or finding a good vendor who is maybe a transgender, maybe an LGBTQ, maybe a disabled person, why not give them an opportunity to work along with you? Right? So it's just that carry on with them purely again. They have given you good rates, good codes, and all those things. Don't look into their details. Now these are three barriers which comes in the implementation of all these best practices. Right? So 2 slides of best practices goes into waste completely when these three barriers actually jump up in the organization, for any organization that matter. So number 1 is that middle management fails to execute diversity programs adequately. So now leaders have given everything. They have decided, they said that there would be a complete program, there would be a committee. But when it comes to the execution, the middle management completely fails in terms of putting everything into action. They don't hire people from diverse, they don't put them into promotions, they don't give them adequate ratings that they require. So all those things. So failures can happen at any point in time, and majority of the failures happen at operational level. So for example, now you are in a need of something. You want to go and meet the president or prime minister of India. What do? You take an appointment and you go. But while you're taking an appointment, our constitution say that the prime minister and president have to keep at least one day or few hours in a week for the general public to meet them and bring them their complaints. Right? First, people are hardly aware about this thing. Second, even if they are aware, they hardly get time to do all these things. कि कौन जाएगा वहां तक? Still, if they still be able to reach out to that level, some people are like that, some eccentric people that they reach to that level. So what happens is there are middlemen. There are so many people in between their PAs, uska PA, uske niche ka. They won't let you meet those people. Right? Prime Minister and President, I am saying at the very extreme side, it can happen in any government department. You go in, this is what will happen. So this is very basic thing that the people at the operational level will never let things go success purely because they fail to do things adequately. Second आता है आपका fund issues. So budget issues are a major problem in organization. Organization के owners will buy Mercedes and BMWs, but when it comes to the time of putting these things into action, there would be different excuses. Right? Majority of the time you will listen to excuses, especially in MSME sector, a lot of excuses you will hear. Large organizations still do it purely because of their reputation. They want to create a good goodwill in the market, so they still do that. But MSME sector actually runs away from all these things, stating that budgetary issues are there. Right. Last one here, too focused on survival in the current economy. So people actually struggle to run their organization in the current economy. So what they say is that we don't have time to do or bring in something extra in terms of diversity related or inclusion related or any such. So people actually don't take it as a part of the organization, that it should be there as a normal course. Right now it has been taken as that we have to do these as a special programs, special committees, special things. So till the time that is the thing that we keep doing, we keep always giving excuses कि we are focused on the economy is going down, we have to bring it up to the people, we are not able to pay full salaries, how are we going to do all those things? So same things related to the above point. This is the last slide. So this is what exactly we are going to do when you are bringing in people. So inclusion talks about these, diversity talk about this, equity talk about this. What you have to talk about is their belonging in the organization. Yes, any questions? Let me know later on whenever we'll come back and do the classes. And just for an assignment, find out at least 2 organizations in internet, search about them, who has good diversity and inclusion policies. Just 2 organizations. And if you can find out what kind of policies they have, what best practices they use, that's also voila. All right, Ruchi, Prachi, Adricha, Vishaka, noted down assignment?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. Chalo then, see you in sometimes in March. Have a good weeks ahead. See you
Thank you,
soon.
ma'am. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
And attend classes. Don't let sir say that ma'am has more students in the class. I keep hearing all those things. Please, sir, keep telling me all this. So favoritism नहीं होना चाहिए. Students की तरफ से भी नहीं होना चाहिए ना. That this teacher is better and that one is not. No, sir must be watching this thing. All right, chalo. See you then. Have a good week ahead. Bye bye. Submit the assignment before next Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Good night, ma'am.
Good night. Bye bye.